The federal shutdown notice hit before Grant Whitaker finished his coffee. By 8:12 a.m., Whitaker Power Systems had its ads pulled across every major platform. By 8:30, our payment processor froze new battery orders across 43 states. By 9 o'clock, customers were calling every service line we owned. By noon, 3 consumer law firms announced class action investigations. By 2:15, 2 insurance carriers demanded reimbursement for roadside claims tied to failed Whitaker batteries. Grant stood inside the glass conference room, red-faced and sweating through a $2,000 shirt. He kept yelling that someone had betrayed him. I was 12 miles away, sitting in a diner off I-75. My coffee tasted burned, but I drank it anyway. The same shutdown notice glowed on my phone. Federal Trade Commission emergency action. Federal compliance review pending. Litigation exposure confirmed. Product sales suspended. Advertising claims frozen. Consumer restitution program required. I read every line twice. Not because I was surprised. Because I had written the evidence package that made it possible. My name is Caleb Mercer. I am 46 years old. For 14 years, I worked at Whitaker Power Systems. My title was Senior Warranty Risk Analyst. That sounds like paperwork until somebody's car will not start at 5:30 a.m. Then paperwork becomes rent money, tow bills, missed shifts, insurance claims, lost weekends, angry calls from drivers who trusted the wrong battery. Whitaker made aftermarket automotive batteries and auxiliary power packs. Our customers were delivery drivers, rideshare drivers, small fleet owners, mechanics, and regular families. People who measured reliability in grocery money and overtime hours. Grant Whitaker understood that better than anyone. That was what made it worse. He founded the company in Ohio with his father's old mechanic stories. He built his brand on American-made dependability. He wore canvas jackets in commercials and shook hands with shop owners. He said we were helping working drivers stay on the road. For a while, I believed him. Then growth slowed. Investor calls got colder. Retail partners started asking harder questions. Warranty reserves looked heavier every quarter. That was when Grant stopped selling batteries. He started selling miracles. The campaign was called The Last Battery Your Car Will Ever Need. AI built the ads. AI wrote the testimonials. AI generated mechanics with clean fingernails and perfect smiles. AI created fake dashboard graphics showing longer life under heavy use. The claim said our batteries outlasted factory models by up to 40%. Our lab data did not say that. Our field returns did not say that. Our loss reports screamed the opposite. I warned Grant in writing. I warned legal. I warned finance. I even asked for a litigation hold on every ad approval file. Grant called me negative. Then he called me expensive. Then he called me gone. If you have ever been told you are the problem for telling the truth, keep listening. Because Grant's real mistake was not firing me. His real mistake was signing every warning he ignored. My job started where the sales pitch ended. Not in studio lights. Not in investor decks. In warranty folders. I read the returns after a driver got stranded outside Columbus. I read dealer notes after a delivery van failed in Phoenix heat. I read claim summaries when a rideshare driver missed 2 airport runs. That was the part Grant never put in commercials. A battery does not fail politely. It leaves patterns. Voltage sag under load. Cold crank weakness. Swollen casing notes. Premature capacity loss. Repeat tow events inside 90 days. Dealer replacement requests from the same batch. Customer complaints that sound different, but point to one cause. I had spent 14 years learning those patterns. Before Whitaker, I worked 8 years in automotive warranty analytics. Before that, I was a field technician for a regional fleet maintenance company. I knew what heat did to cells in July. I knew what Michigan winters did to old starters. I knew how fast heavy-use drivers could expose a weak product. At Whitaker, I sat between engineering, legal, customer support, and risk management. That meant nobody liked seeing my name in their inbox. If I emailed engineering, something was drifting outside tolerance. If I emailed legal, a disclosure was too soft. If I emailed finance, warranty reserves were too low. If I emailed customer support, refund scripts were creating legal exposure. My work was not glamorous. It was necessary. Every Monday, I ran loss run analysis across warranty claims and insurer notices. That showed where failure costs were gathering. Every Thursday, I matched field returns against production batches. That showed whether a problem was random or repeating. When the same pattern appeared in 3 states, I flagged it. When it appeared in 8, I escalated it. When it appeared in 21, I stopped using polite language. The first AI campaign changed the numbers within 6 weeks. Claims rose fastest in high-mileage driver segments. Delivery vans, rideshare sedans, contractor trucks, vehicles that ran 10 hours a day. Exactly the customers Grant targeted hardest. He loved calling them road warriors. I called them financially exposed consumers. They bought our batteries because downtime could cost real money. One failed start could mean a missed route. One tow bill could erase a week of profit. One denied warranty claim could become an insurance dispute. That was why I asked legal for a litigation hold. I wanted every ad draft preserved, every approval email, every vendor prompt, every claim substantiation file, every complaint tagged to the campaign. I also protected chain of custody on my own reports. Original files stayed original. Timestamps stayed visible. Emails stayed attached. I had seen enough corporate cleanup jobs to know the rule. If evidence looks touched, truth starts bleeding credibility. Grant hated that about me. He wanted speed. I wanted proof. He wanted conversion. I wanted substantiation. He wanted artificial confidence. I wanted real data. One afternoon, he stopped beside my desk with 2 board members behind him. He smiled like a man performing patience. "Caleb," he said, "you keep treating opportunity like liability." I looked at the dashboard on my screen. Warranty claims were up 32%. Insurer notices had doubled in 9 weeks. Customer refunds were being denied using scripts I had never approved. I closed my notebook and asked one question. "Do you want the numbers, or do you want comfort?" Grant stopped smiling. That was the day I learned something important. The truth does not scare dishonest men. A documented truth does. By the time Grant decided I was slowing the company down, I had already saved it twice. The first time was 3 winters earlier. A cold snap hit the Midwest like a steel door. Temperatures dropped below zero across Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Our customer service queue lit up before sunrise. Battery failures came from the same production window. Same plant. Same supplier lot. Same terminal coding. Sales wanted to call it weather. Engineering wanted another week. Grant wanted silence until the quarter closed. I pulled 31 failed units from dealer returns. I matched serial numbers to batch records. I compared cold crank test results against field mileage. Then I found the pattern. The coating supplier had changed a curing temperature by 12 degrees. On paper, it looked harmless. In real driveways, it created weak starts below 5 degrees. I wrote the recall memo myself. Grant hated that word. He called it brand damage. I called it math. We replaced 8,000 units before regulators noticed. It cost the company $4.6 million. It saved us from something worse. The second time was a fleet account in Texas. 62 delivery vans showed early voltage drop. The fleet manager was already talking to lawyers. I flew to Dallas with a test kit and 2 clean shirts. By midnight, I found the installer had used the wrong grounding strap. Not our fault. Not their fault entirely. Just bad documentation between procurement and service. I rewrote the install guide. Legal avoided a claim. Sales kept the account. Grant sent a company-wide email thanking operations. My name was not in it. That was how Whitaker worked. When risks stayed invisible, executives called it leadership. When risks spoke up, they called it obstruction. I learned to live with that. My desk sat near the back of the second floor. No window. 1 gray filing cabinet. 2 monitors. A coffee mug from a dealer conference in Nashville. People found me when something expensive started smelling wrong. A refund cluster in Nevada. A retailer chargeback in Pennsylvania. An insurer asking why roadside claims jumped after a promotion. I kept those things from becoming lawsuits. That was the value Grant never understood. My work did not create applause. It created absence. No subpoenas. No headlines. No angry attorneys asking for discovery. No state investigator requesting batch records. No insurance carrier threatening recovery. Quiet was my performance metric. Then Grant hired the AI advertising vendor. Suddenly, quiet became inconvenient. Marketing wanted faster approvals. Sales wanted bigger promises. Finance wanted reserves to stay low. Grant wanted a story investors could repeat. I wanted claims tied to evidence. That made me the old brake pedal on his new sports car. During one product review, I flagged a phrase in the campaign copy. Independent testing proves longer life under extreme use. I asked which independent lab signed it. Nobody answered. Grant leaned back and tapped his pen against the table. Caleb, he said, consumers do not need a chemistry lecture. They need confidence. I looked at the room. Legal stared down. Marketing stared at Grant. Finance stared at the forecast. Nobody looked at the data. That was when I knew my real job had changed. I was no longer protecting Whitaker from outside risk. I was protecting customers from Whitaker. Grant Whitaker did not look like a man building fraud. That was the dangerous part. He looked like a founder from a business magazine cover. Rolled sleeves. Steel watch. Canvas jacket with the company patch. Gray hair trimmed just enough to seem rugged. He knew every camera angle that made him look honest. In commercials, he stood beside assembly lines and talked about working families. In investor meetings, he talked about market capture and margin expansion. In private, he talked about fear. Fear was his favorite sales channel. He wanted ads aimed at drivers who could not afford downtime. Rideshare drivers with airport queues. Single parents with long commutes. Contractors with early job sites. Delivery drivers whose vans paid their rent. The AI vendor called it emotional relevance. Grant called it understanding the customer. I called it pressure targeting. The first campaign review happened in the main conference room, 24 floors above downtown Cleveland. Lake Erie looked frozen through the glass. The screen showed a smiling mechanic who did not exist. His name was generated. His shop was generated. His 5-star quote was generated. Below him sat a claim about 40% longer battery life. The room loved it. Marketing loved the click rate. Finance loved the lower acquisition cost. Grant loved the silence after the slide. I opened my folder and placed 3 reports on the table. Lab cycle tests. Field return summaries. Warranty exposure forecast. Then I asked one question. Which data source supports 40% under heavy use? The vendor representative blinked first. Marketing looked annoyed. Legal reached for a pen, but did not write. Grant smiled like I had missed the point. Caleb, he said, this is not a courtroom. It is a growth meeting. I said growth still needed substantiation. He said substantiation could follow performance. That sentence stayed in my notebook. 2 weeks later, the ads were everywhere. Facebook, YouTube, search results, local news sites, driver forums, repair blogs. One version showed a mother starting her car before dawn. Another showed a delivery driver avoiding lost income. Another showed a fake mechanic calling our product a breakthrough. The claims kept changing, but the tricks stayed the same. Hope first, fine print later. Customer orders jumped. Grant strutted through the office like he had discovered electricity. He told the board the company had finally broken through consumer hesitation. He said AI had unlocked trust at scale. But my dashboard told a different story. Refund requests rose first. Then early failures. Then tow claims. Then insurer notices. Most executives saw separate problems. I saw one map. Same campaign zones. Same product batches. Same customer profile. Same denial scripts. I printed the first pattern report at 6:18 p.m. The office was almost empty. The printer sounded too loud in the dark hallway. Page 1 showed ad spend by county. Page 2 showed failure reports by county. Page 3 showed insurance reimbursements by county. The overlap was almost perfect. That was the moment I realized Grant was not looking at a marketing problem. He was standing on top of a liability stack he could not even see. The betrayal came on a Tuesday, because bad corporate decisions love Tuesdays. Grant called it an alignment meeting. That meant someone was about to lose authority. The room smelled like cold coffee, printer toner, and nervous people. Legal sat on one side. Finance sat on the other. Marketing crowded near Grant like weather around a mountain. I walked in carrying my blue risk binder. The one Grant once called my little book of reasons not to win. On the screen was a slide titled Revenue Acceleration Governance Update. That was corporate language for removing the brakes. Grant did not sit. He stood at the head of the table, smiling. Caleb, he said, we appreciate your diligence. I knew then the knife was already signed. He clicked to the next slide. My department name disappeared from the approval flow. Warranty risk review moved under executive office. Advertising substantiation moved under growth strategy. Consumer complaint escalation moved under brand experience. Refund oversight moved under customer success. Every dangerous thing got a softer name. That is how companies bury bad decisions. They do not delete the problem. They rename it until nobody feels responsible. I asked who would review performance claims before launch. Grant said the market would. Someone from marketing laughed. Not loudly. Just enough to prove loyalty. I asked who would validate independent testing language. Grant said our vendor had strong standards. I asked whether legal approved removing disclosures. Grant looked at legal. Legal looked at the table. That was answer enough. Then Grant turned back to me. Caleb, he said, your framework made sense when we were smaller. Now it is limiting our ability to compete. I opened the binder and slid forward my latest memo. It showed claims up 32%. It showed insurer notices doubling. It showed failure clusters across campaign counties. It showed refund denials tied to the same scripts. Grant did not touch it. He nodded toward human resources. A woman named Patricia Lowe placed a folder before me. Her hands shook slightly. Inside was my separation packet. 14 weeks of pay. Continued health coverage. 1 non-disparagement agreement. 1 confidentiality agreement. 1 cooperation clause. 1 document labeled voluntary transition acknowledgement. I had seen enough paperwork to know a trap. The agreement restricted discussions about product performance. It restricted discussions about customer complaints. It restricted discussions about internal testing. It even restricted communications about advertising practices. I read it slowly while the room waited. Grant tried to fill the silence. This is generous, Caleb. We are trying to protect everyone. I looked at the final page. My signature line was already marked with a yellow tab. I placed the packet back on the table. Then I asked Patricia one simple question. Does this restrict lawful communication with regulators? The room went still. Grant blinked once. Patricia swallowed and glanced toward legal. Nobody answered. I asked again slower. Does this restrict lawful communication with regulators? Grant stepped in before legal could breathe. Nobody is talking about regulators. That is exactly what people say before regulators matter. I capped my pen. I did not sign. I did not argue. I did not threaten anybody. I only asked for the entire packet by email. Grant smiled again, but it had lost its shine. He thought I was leaving with hurt feelings. I was leaving with proof of retaliation. 30 minutes later, my access to the warranty dashboard was gone. My badge stopped opening the second-floor records room. My email received a calendar invite titled Transition Closeout. At 5:42 p.m., Patricia sent the separation packet to my personal email. She included the wrong attachment first. Not the clean version. The internal legal draft. The comments were still visible. One note said Caleb may report outside if not contained. Another said avoid written mention of federal exposure. I sat in my truck and read those lines under the parking lot lights. Then I forwarded nothing. I downloaded nothing new. I simply preserved what they had sent me. Grant had not fired a problem employee. He had mailed a whistleblower the cover page. For the next 48 hours, I became boring on purpose. Boring is powerful when a company expects drama. I did not post online. I did not call reporters. I did not send angry emails to Grant. I did not warn old coworkers. I went home, cleared my kitchen table, and built a file. Not a revenge file. A truth file. The first folder held my risk memos. Every warning had dates, recipients, and attached data. The second folder held warranty trend reports. Early failures by state. Failures by batch. Failures by mileage. Failures by customer segment. The third folder held insurer notices. Roadside assistance payouts. Towing reimbursements. Rental car claims. Dealer labor disputes. The fourth folder held advertising records I had received before termination. AI copy drafts. Approval comments. Vendor invoices. Claim substantiation requests. Screenshots with timestamps. The fifth folder held the separation packet. Especially the draft Grant never meant me to see. I kept originals clean. I made working copies only for reference. I wrote a chain of custody log by hand. Date received. Source. File name. Storage location. No edits. No enhancements. No guessing. I had learned that truth is not enough in corporate disputes. Truth needs receipts that survive lawyers. By Thursday morning, the pattern looked worse than I expected. The heaviest ad spending matched the steepest complaint growth. Cleveland, Columbus, Detroit, Indianapolis, Louisville, Pittsburgh, Nashville, St. Louis. Cities full of drivers who depended on reliable starts. The claims were not random. They followed the campaign like tire tracks through snow. The AI ads promised confidence under heavy use. The batteries failed fastest under heavy use. That was bad. The refund scripts made it worse. Customer support had been told to call failures installation-related, even when dealer notes showed proper installation, even when batch records showed prior defects. even when mileage data matched our own risk forecast. One script told agents to avoid admitting product weakness. Another told them not to mention known degradation variables. A third suggested offering store credit instead of refunds. I stared at that one for a long time. Store credit does not help a driver stuck outside a grocery warehouse at dawn. Then I found the insurer emails. They had started politely. Please confirm whether these units relate to batch WPS 14C. Please provide any known failure trend information. Please identify applicable warranties. Then the tone changed. Notice of potential recovery. Notice of reimbursement review. Request for preservation of documents. That last phrase mattered. Insurance carriers were already circling the same truth I had found. Grant thought this was about customers complaining. It was bigger than that. Insurers had paid claims. Retailers had processed returns. Drivers had lost income. Financing partners had relied on clean projections. The board had seen reserve estimates missing the real trend. By Friday afternoon, I opened the deleted board deck Patricia had accidentally sent. One hidden slide changed everything. Projected warranty exposure under heavy used driver segment. $26.8 million. That number had been removed from the final presentation. Below it sat one comment from Grant. Too conservative. Removed before investor call. I leaned back and let the silence settle. Then I started drafting the federal complaint. The federal complaint took me 9 hours to write and 14 years to understand. I did not write it like a fired employee. I wrote it like a risk analyst. Timeline first. Evidence second. Consumer harm third. Corporate knowledge fourth. Retaliation last. Every claim had a source file. Every source file had a timestamp. Every timestamp matched a system record. The packet included AI ad screenshots, vendor invoices, changed claim language, the deleted exposure slide, and Grant's email removing the words up to. That one mattered most. The vendor had asked whether the phrase should stay. Grant wrote back 4 words. Remove it. Confidence converts. 4 words can bury a man when the right people read them. I sent the packet to the Federal Trade Commission Consumer Protection Portal first. Then I sent a separate notice to the Ohio Attorney General Consumer Fraud Division. Then I sent a preservation letter to the Board Audit Committee. I also notified the directors and officers' insurance carrier. Not because I wanted attention, because insurance carriers understand risk faster than executives understand shame. The first response came Monday at 7:06 a.m. Not from Grant, not from Human Resources, from outside counsel hired by the board. His name was Martin Kell. Careful voice. No wasted words. He asked if I was represented. I said not yet. He asked whether my files were original. I said yes. Then he asked the question that told me he understood. Caleb, how clean is your chain of custody? I looked at the handwritten log beside my coffee. Date received. Source. File name. Storage location. No edits. I told him clean enough for discovery. He went quiet for 3 seconds. Then he said the board would be in touch. 2 hours later, my old coworker Dana called from a blocked number. She worked in finance. She never panicked. That morning, she sounded like she had swallowed ice. Caleb, she said, the audit committee just locked the shared drive. Legal is collecting laptops. Grant is furious. I told her not to send me anything. Not one file. Not one screenshot. Not one message. She said there was something I needed to know. I almost stopped her. Then she said the words that changed the case. Grant moved the warranty reserve model before the investor call. I asked what she meant. She said the original forecast showed $26.8 million in exposure. The final deck showed 7.4. The difference had been moved into next year assumptions. That meant the board did not just receive incomplete advertising risk. They received softened financial risk. I wrote down every word after the call ended. Time, date, speaker, substance. No recording, no tricks, just memory while fresh. By Wednesday, a federal investigator called. Her questions were calm and narrow. Did customers rely on the ads? Did internal data contradict the claims? Did executives know before launch? Did the company continue selling after warnings? I answered only what I could prove. That was enough. Because Grant thought he was fighting one former employee. He had not understood the real opponent yet. The paperwork had started talking, and it had a federal badge. By the second week, Grant stopped calling me negative. He started calling me dangerous. Not to my face, of course. Men like Grant save courage for conference rooms. I heard it through Martin Kell, the board counsel. Grant wanted to frame everything as employee retaliation. He wanted my personnel file reviewed. He wanted my old emails searched for tone. He wanted every meeting note questioned. Martin asked whether I expected that. I said I had counted on it. That is why my evidence package did not begin with feelings. It began with dates. March 4th, first AI vendor proposal. March 17th, first substantiation objection. March 29th, grant approved claim expansion. April 10th, warranty spike identified. April 15th, legal hold requested. April 18th, investor deck altered. April 23rd, separation packet sent. April 24th, federal complaint drafted. You can argue with emotion. You can attack motive. You can spin a meeting. You cannot charm a timeline. My plan was simple. Let every system do its job. Regulators would ask for records. Insurers would compare loss data. Consumer lawyers would gather drivers. Retailers would protect their own brands. Payment processors would review fraud exposure. The board would discover Grant had hidden risk from them, too. I did not need to push any of it. I only needed to keep my hands clean. That was harder than people think. Former coworkers kept reaching out. Some wanted to help. Some wanted gossip. Some were scared. I gave everyone the same answer. Preserve your own records. Follow your policies. Do not send me company files. If investigators call, tell the truth. Meanwhile, the outside world started catching up. A mechanic in Toledo posted a long thread about failed Whitaker batteries. A delivery driver in Indianapolis shared receipts from 3 tow calls. A rideshare driver in Detroit showed a denied warranty claim beside the ad that convinced him. None of them knew my name yet. They only knew the story sounded familiar. By Friday, a consumer protection nonprofit contacted me through my attorney. They had received dozens of complaints from working drivers. Same claims, same failures, same refund language. They asked whether I would provide a statement after federal action became public. I said yes, but only about the data. No insults. No revenge speech. No dramatic accusations. Just what happened. Grant had spent millions making artificial voices sound trustworthy. I knew one calm human voice could do more damage if every sentence was backed by documents. Then the insurers moved. First came Horizon Mutual, then Great Plains Casualty, then Northstar Auto Risk. Each sent preservation demands to Whitaker. Each requested batch data, claims history, warranty denials, and campaign records. Each mentioned potential reimbursement rights. That was when Grant finally understood the shape of the trap. The customers were angry. The regulators were watching. But the insurers were counting. And insurers count with lawyers. On Monday morning, Martin called again. His voice was lower than usual. "Caleb," he said, "the board found the original reserve model." I waited. He continued. "They also found Grant's handwritten note on the printed version." I asked what it said. Martin exhaled once. It said, "Not before financing closes." I looked out my kitchen window at the gray Cleveland sky. For 2 weeks, Grant had thought the worst evidence was the advertising lie. He was wrong. The real final turn was not what he told customers. It was what he hid from everyone paid to trust him. The shutdown became official at 8:12 on a Wednesday morning. Not a rumor. Not a warning. A federal emergency action with case numbers, sworn declarations, and a temporary order. Whitaker Power Systems had to suspend the campaign, freeze affected product lines, preserve records, and notify customers. Retail partners pulled displays before lunch. The payment processor stopped new orders by 9. Customer support lines collapsed under refund requests. By noon, the first class action complaint hit federal court. By 3, Horizon Mutual filed its reimbursement demand. Great Plains Casualty followed before close of business. Northstar Auto Risk filed the next morning. Grant tried every door before the walls closed. He blamed the AI vendor. The vendor produced approval emails. He blamed marketing. Marketing produced meeting notes. He blamed legal. Legal produced my litigation hold request. He blamed me. The board produced my warnings, signed and acknowledged by him. Then Martin Kell opened the reserve file. One table showed $26.8 million in projected exposure. The final investor deck showed 7.4. Beside the original printout, Grant had written 5 words. Not before financing closes. Nobody spoke after that. Boardrooms have a special kind of silence. It is not peaceful. It is expensive. Grant was removed as chief executive before sunset. His control rights were challenged under the financing agreement. The directors and officers carrier issued a reservation of rights. That meant even his insurance company had questions. 2 weeks later, the federal order expanded. Whitaker had to fund a consumer restitution program. Drivers could submit tow bills, denied warranty claims, replacement receipts, and lost service documentation. The affected product line stayed frozen pending compliance review. The AI vendor contract became part of discovery. Every fake testimonial became a numbered exhibit. The company that sold confidence now had to prove every sentence. That was the part Grant never understood. Advertising can create attention. It cannot create truth. Truth waits in warranty databases. It waits in insurer files. It waits inside emails people send too quickly. My settlement came quietly. Retaliation claim resolved. Months later, my retaliation claim settled. A whistleblower award followed after review. Enough money to breathe. Not enough to forget. I used part of it to start Mercer battery verification. At first, it was one rented office, 2 used workbenches, and a website my nephew built. Then drivers started sending batteries. Mechanics sent batch numbers. Fleet owners asked for independent reports. Even insurers called for testing protocols. A crowdfunding campaign appeared before I knew about it. Working drivers put in $10, $20, whatever they could spare. One note said, "Thanks for believing the people stuck in parking lots." I printed that one and taped it above my desk. Months later, I drove past the old Whitaker building. The sign was still there, but the parking lot was half empty. No cameras. No canvas jacket. No speeches about trust. Just a locked lobby and a federal notice taped inside the glass. I did not feel joy. I felt balance. Grant thought trust was something you could manufacture with artificial voices. He forgot trust has a memory. It remembers every failed start, every denied refund, every ignored warning. I never shut his company down. I only handed the truth to people with authority. Grant did the rest. He used AI to sell drivers a miracle. I used his own paperwork to prove it was fraud.